This newly released footage shows the Dragonfire laser-directed energy system in action, and it could be in the hands of military personnel. It destroys targets with an intense beam of light and has pinpoint accuracy. It's able to hit something the size of a £1 coin from a kilometre away.
Right there, see that? Little fire tornado.
The strange boom noises from Los Angeles are now being heard nationwide. People from Florida, Utah, Nebraska, Idaho are now reporting the same noises.
Captured the blast.
Is your city getting strange boom noises that can't be explained?
I said then Canada should be a 51st state. And that's where we are now.
A story that kind of disappeared very suddenly. Do you have any idea whatever happened to the drones?
What happened to drones?
Well, you said that you knew you thought the government knew what was happening with these drones over New Jersey. There were some by Bedminster.
I don't know. They're over Bedminster a lot, so I can imagine. I'm going to give you a report on drones about one day into the administration, because I think it's ridiculous that they're not telling you about what's going on with the drones. And it's not only with me. Glenn was telling me today that in Virginia they have drones all over the place too, and nobody's reporting it. I don't know why they're not. Do you want to say something about that?
Just one quick comment, which is we are home to the largest naval base in the world in Quantico, and we house a lot of the SEAL teams and have a huge national security infrastructure. And now for 2 years running, we have had drone incursion over secure airspace, and we still don't know why. And I think that's absolutely unacceptable. And I think President Trump and the new leadership coming in, I think will work diligently to understand who's behind this and what we do in order to stop the digital surveillance of all of our secure infrastructure.
Well, I can tell you this, while we were dealing with an attack in New Orleans, we had drones being flown over our nuclear reactors in Louisiana. And we brought that attention to the FAA. We've been asking the FAA to give these states the ability to mitigate these drones, and it's sitting on some bureaucrat's desk. And that's real.
Nobody knows. They don't want to talk about it. Go ahead, Governor, you're going to say?
I was just going to say we have drones in Wyoming flying over our infrastructure as well. And it's incredibly frustrating that we not only have no way of knowing what it is, but nobody knows how to deal with them.
They don't want to talk about it, and nobody knows why. They don't want to talk about it. That could be us sending drones. I hope that's the case, us doing it and doing research, and maybe they don't want to talk about it from that standpoint. I hope it's not an enemy, but we're going to find out on the 21st, the day after. You have to give me a little time for the inauguration, but shortly thereafter, we'll give you a report on it. We'll tell you exactly what it is. They know, and it's very strange that they aren't talking about it.
Do you owe citizens an apology for being absent while their homes were burning? Do you regret cutting the fire department budget by millions of dollars, Madam Mayor? Have you nothing to say today?
Can you back up, please? Appreciate it.
Have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today? Elon Musk says that you're utterly incompetent. Are you considering your position? Madam Mayor, have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today who are dealing with this disaster? No apology for them?
Mr. President, on California, Mr. President, during the pandemic, you often said that you didn't believe that you should bail out blue states that you believe were being mismanaged. Given your criticism of Governor Gavin Newsom, are you willing to work with him, and do you believe that federal aid should be provided to California for as long as it takes?
Well, it's very sad because I've been trying to get Gavin Newsom to allow water to come. You'd have tremendous water up there. They send it out to the Pacific because they're trying to protect a tiny little fish, which is in other areas, by the way, called the smelt. and for the sake of a smelt, they have no water. They had no water in the fire hydrants today in Los Angeles. It was a terrible thing. And we're going to get that done. It's going to finally be done. I got it done from the federal side, and he didn't want to sign it, but it's not going to happen again like that. There's no reason. Can you imagine? You have farmers that don't have any water in California. They have plenty of water. They don't have a drought. They send it out to the Pacific, and it's crazy. So what's happening in California is a true tragedy. I know those areas very well. I have many friends living in those houses. That is a true tragedy. Nobody ever thought. I mean, virtually Beverly Hills and areas around Beverly Hills are being decimated. The biggest homes, some of the most valuable homes in the world are just destroyed. I don't even know. You know, you talk about a tax base. If those people leave, you're going to lose half your tax base of California. This is a true tragedy, and it's a mistake of the governor, and you could say the administration. They don't have any water. They didn't have water in the fire hydrants. They don't have water. And yet they have, the water comes from, you know where? Up north. And it comes down at levels, they get millions and millions of barrels of gallons of water that they have, and they send it out into the Pacific. For the Pacific, it's like a drop, it's nothing. But for California, it would take care of the whole state. So what's happened is a tragedy, and the governor has not done a good job. With that being said, I got along well with him when he was governor. We worked together very well, and we would work together. I guess it looks like we're going to be the one having to rebuild it. But what happened there, I don't think there's anything that I've ever seen quite like it. And the insurance companies are going to have a big problem, because you're talking about big, big dollars.
I hate to even ask this question, but the president-elect chose to attack you, blame you for this.
One can't even respond to it. I mean, it's people are literally fleeing. People have lost their lives. Kids lost their schools. Families completely torn asunder. Churches burned down. This guy wanted to politicize it. I have a lot of thoughts, and I know what I want to say. I won't. I stood next to a president of the United States of America today, and I was proud to be with Joe Biden. And he had the backs of every single person in this community. He didn't play politics, didn't try to divide any of us.
Finally, your message to the folks here, to this community.
I mean, we have their backs, and we're going to be back. And this is going to be a long recovery process. But look, we have residents moving back into Paradise, California. I've seen remarkable recovery efforts. I've seen remarkable sense of community, purpose, resilience. So, I'm not just playing the politician role of optimism. I really am long-term optimistic. But the devastation to hear people wailing and crying, concerned about their pet, their family, they're just bewildered about what they're experiencing. And again, not just experience. I was not talking past tense. This is happening in real time. 0% containment.
My heart goes out, obviously, to the people with their homes, and I'm watching the small businesses around us go up in flames. This is people's livelihoods, so it's devastating. But what is most concerning to me is our first responders and our firefighters who are trying to battle this. There's no water in the Palisades. There's no water coming out of the fire hydrants. This is an absolute mismanagement by the city. It's not the firefighters' fault, but it's by the city. And I'm going to be very honest. We've got a mayor that's out of the country, and we've got a city that's burning, and there's no resources to put out fires. So if you look at your pictures, you don't see the firefighters there because there's nothing they can do. And it looks like we're in a third world country here. Mm-hmm. And we've got a lot of tough questions that we need to ask the mayor and the city council and our representatives and the county representatives. Why didn't you work to mitigate this? What was your brush mitigation program? I heard you earlier talking about it's been dry because there hasn't been rain. That's not the biggest problem here. The brush up in these hills that are controlled by the city and the county, I would bet you that if they haven't been handled, mitigated, pruned, removed for probably 30 or 40 years. This was a disaster waiting to happen. And what's predictable is preventable. And who's paying the price are all of these people in their homes and their businesses tonight. Now, we'll rebuild, but the majority of this community is going to have a tough time rebuilding their lives.
Historic fires decimating parts of our nation's most populous county tonight. And unlike the train derailment in East Palestine and the Hurricane Helene and, people in North Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, and elsewhere, Biden actually showed up for the disaster in L.A. with Gavin Newsom, but only because he was already in L.A. And his remarks did not exactly inspire any confidence at all whatsoever in his leadership ability. Take a look.
It's astounding what's happening. You know, I want to good news. My son was out here in the way. They got a notification yesterday their home was probably burned to the ground. Today, it appears that maybe he's still standing, I'm not sure. But the good news is, I'm a great grandfather as of today.
Okay, thousands of people lost their homes, but you're a great grandfather. Congrats, Joe. Anyway, the president-elect Donald Trump, he slammed Biden on Truth Social, saying, no water in the fire hydrants, no money in FEMA. This is what Joe Biden is leaving me? Thanks, Joe. Here now, Texas Governor Greg Abbott. Well, also, they're leaving wide open borders, Governor, and you've been dealing with that now for 4 years.
Well, that's exactly right. And so this is being missing in action once again for Joe Biden. Remember that Joe Biden has a habit of doing this at disaster sites. Remember when he was at the Maui fires in Hawaii, talking about some rinky-dink fire that he had on his property. He always tries to inject himself into the disaster that somebody else is dealing with, and to raise his great-grandchildren at a time when you see these homes burning down and lives being lost is just outrageous. What is needed is exactly what President Trump delivers. You know, what is needed is for Joe Biden to stop giving money to the Ukraine and start providing it to North Carolina and, in this case, California, and helping out our fellow Americans and securing our border instead of sacrificing America just for the well-being of some other countries across the globe.
Geez, I want to talk about my white privilege so badly. I graduated North Hollywood High with a 1.7 GPA. I could not find a job. I walked to a fire station in North Hollywood. I was 19. I was living in the garage of my family home. My mom was on welfare and food stamps, and I said, can I get a job as a fireman? And they said, no, because you're not black, Hispanic, or a woman. We'll see in about 7 years. And I went to a construction site and dug ditches and picked up garbage for the next 7 years. I got a letter in the mail sent to my father's house saying, your time has come to do the written exam for the LA Fire Department. I took it, and I was standing in line, and I had a young woman of color standing behind me in line, and I said, just out of curiosity, when did you sign up to become a fireman? Because I did it, or a person, 7 years ago, and she said, Wednesday. That is an example of my white privilege.
Meanwhile, let's bring in Rick Caruso. Caruso, founder and executive chairman who ran against Karen Bass for mayor of L.A. 2 years ago. Thank you, sir, for joining us. You caught our attention this morning with your analysis of the situation, saying this looks more like a third world country.
Well, you know, first of all, thanks for having me on. It does look like a third world country. The devastation up in the Palisades area is so widespread. Most of the downtown is completely gone. One of my developments up there was damaged. It's standing, which we're very grateful for, but obviously we're not sure what's going to happen because there's still fires around it. But most of the downtown is gone. Whole sections of neighborhoods are gone, as I heard on your report, schools, churches. What's amazing to me is how widespread a devastation this could have happened in a relatively short period of time. One of the things you reported was the lack of water and fire hydrants. I think there's a lot of tough questions that need to be asked on how it happened. Was the city adequately prepared? Knew the high winds were coming in? And to your point, I think John raised, the brush clearance in this area has not happened for decades. So although it started in a neighborhood, it quickly moved into the brush in the hills that are controlled by the city, the county, and the state. And it provided an enormous amount of fuel and just took off. And we really need to hold leadership responsible. Ask what they did and find out what they did wrong and hold people accountable.
In the meantime, this is survival mode, Rick.
Oh, it absolutely is. And, you know, you're talking about $10 million homes and $30 million homes. Just to be clear, the majority of the businesses in the Palisades are independent small businesses. there is a far majority of homes in the Palisades that people have lived in for 30 or 40 years. It's not all wealthy people. And these are people that are going to be wiped out. There's businesses that are going to be wiped out. And this is what really saddens and angers me and frustrates me, is that the city has a sacred duty and obligation to protect people's lives and livelihood. And when you don't have water in a fire hydrant, you've got to ask some real tough questions on how this could happen in a major city, the second largest city in the country.